Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Thank you very much for the organizers for the event, for inviting me back again. It's always a pleasure to meet you guys and have a wee bit discussion. So today, inshallah, I will try to go quickly through some information related to food. I would like to thank Brother Ishaq for making my job easier. So we will try, inshallah, to cover the most important parts that was not covered by Brother Ishaq. So we will try to understand what else other than halal and haram. There is other terms or concepts that are lying between halal and haram that we need to be aware of. We try to understand why we should actually eat halal and live our life in halal or according to the prescribed pathway for avoiding haram. We'll talk about halal and haram food, challenges in food production that is coming in our way if it's not already existing here. And then we'll talk about some health aspects that related to halal meat production and future aspects that we need to be aware of. So halal economy is very, very big and it is on the increase. So we're talking about trillions of dollars that can be exchanged, which actually can be a really good advantage for us to try to emphasize the need for halal. New Zealand is a very good place to pick up on that. So they see economical benefit. The more you ask for halal issues or halal product or halal goods, the more they will be willing to give it to us and facilitate it for us, because for them, the sign of dollar is really, really important. So in New Zealand, for example, we have about 90% or 95% of the slaughtered sheep in New Zealand are halal, slaughtered halal, and it's regarded as the most important source for halal sheep meat. About 35% or 30% most of the slaughtered beef is basically considered to be halal. So it's important to keep pushing for halal product and services, and I think this will be facilitated. The point I would like to make here, and Brother Isar mentioned, is that halal is not related to food, but also halal can be encompassing many other issues that we will be addressing it for quickly later on. So the relation between food and faith is really, really important. Most the other faiths other than Islam, they also have this link between food and celebration, some prohibition, some allowances are existing in all other religions. But I don't want to say religion, but faith is probably the proper way. So food in many cases can be symbolic, providing hospitality, celebrating certain occasions where food, unique different types of food will be offered on that day just to differentiate from normal days or normal food. But in some cases, it can be obligatory or religious law-regulated consumption or prohibition of such food. So a single observation for myself, I found that bread has certain unique position that is normally shared by several faiths. And for example, khilla, which is a type of bread that is eaten by Jews on Sabbath. Also in Ramadan, for example, most of the Muslim countries, they will be creative in creating different types of food. This has no religious significance other than being a festive occasion with different types of food. Other food also does exist in different cultures that are associated with celebration and differentiation from the everyday normal food. There is also other occasion where the celebration is recommended or appreciated. For example, we are encouraged to celebrate Eid with special occasion and special food. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Ayam al-Eid is ayamun for drinking wa shop." It's meant to be celebrated by drinking and enjoying food. Aqiqah, for example, it's sunnah. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam recommended having aqiqah for the newly born children, and this is great opportunity to connecting with neighbors, families, and provide charity and supporting other members of the community who cannot afford this type of food on their own. So from cultural perspective, food has strong links with our birth, with our dead, special occasions, and that is really important. So food is really a very important part in our religious practices as well as in cultural background. So we eat food mostly for nutrition, to support our own physical need and physiological need to perform activities. And one of the unique things that is very clear in Islam is that food is given to human for enjoyment. So there is nothing wrong about enjoying food. So in Surah Abbas chapters, or Surah 24 to 32, start with فلينظر الإنسان إلى طعامه أنا صببنا الماء صبا ثم شققنا الأرض شقا فأنبتنا فيها حبا وعنبا وقضبا وزيتونا ونخلا وحدائق غلبا وفاكهة وأبا متاعا لكم ولأنعامكم. So the ayah starts by the declaration from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, asking us to start to think and try to understand the ecosystem where the food is generated for us, with the aim of giving us a source of enjoyment for us and for our livestock. So enjoyment is really important part, and that enjoyment comes with a bit of etiquette. So there is Islamic food etiquette that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam from hadith and tradition have been declared to us. And one of them is tasmiyah before eating with the right hand, and eating from the food that is close to us. So in Sahih al-Bukhari, there is the hadith narrated by Umar ibn Abi Salma. It says, Ya ghulam, Samillah, kul biyaminik wa kul bima yalik. So, oh boy, mention the name of Allah and eat with your right hand and eat the dish that is near to you. So that is number one Islamic etiquette of eating. The second one is not to ignore others who need food. So Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, he is not a believer or a true believer whose stomach is filled while his neighbor goes hungry. So sharing food, especially with the needy, is really important part of Islamic food etiquette. Also, as part of the Islamic etiquette is not to overindulge ourselves. And the Prophet ﷺ give us really something that nutritionists nowadays try to actually use it as a way of life, reducing food consumption, trying to maintain balance between nutrient in and energy consumed. So Prophet ﷺ said, a human being filled no worse vessel than his stomach. ما ملأ ابن آدم وعاء شرا من بطنه. So the stomach, all physicians nowadays, they say it's the start for, or the gate for health or for sickness. So Prophet ﷺ said, it is sufficient for a human being to eat a few mouthfuls to keep his spine straight, means that he maintain his strength. But if he must fill it, means that if you need to fill the stomach, 1/3 should be for the food, 1/3 for the drink, and 1/3 for air. Meaning modesty in terms of consuming the food is required. So this has a spiritual outcome in terms of you don't really feel too heavy, too lazy after consuming too much food. We talk about nowadays, we call it insulin resistant, spike in glucose metabolism, and all this fancy scientific terminology. But it's all coming down to actually being full and having too much nutrients that may lead you to be lazy for subsequent duties, especially salah. And the other thing is that not to be wasteful with the food. So Prophet ﷺ once entered his house and he found a piece of bread lying on the floor, and he picked it up, he wiped it and ate it. And he said to Aisha radiallahu anha, "O Aisha, show honor to the precious or the blessing. For the blessing of the food departs from people, it never comes back." Meaning that if we don't respect the food and show our gratitude for the blessings that we offer, it can go, we can lose it. And once it's gone from a house, it will never come back. So not being wasteful is very, very important. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala emphasized that in Surah Al-A'raf, Surah 31, يا بني آدم خذوا زينتكم عند كل صلاة وكلوا واشربوا ولا تسرفوا إنه لا يحب المسرفين. O children of Adam, dress well whenever you are at worship, and eat and drink as we have permitted, but do not be extravagant, because Allah do not like the extravagant people or the wasteful. So we are actually ordered to have modesty, and as the brothers mentioned before about moderation in Islam is a very important part in our religious duties. So if we start looking at the dietary law for Muslims, we have 5 categories that we will go by. So first one, for any actions, for any fail or anything we do in our life, it will fall under these 5 categories, including the consumption of food. So either it's haram, means forbidden or not permissible. Makruh means reprehensible. So it's less severe than haram, but it's always recommended not to go to makruh or accept makruh. There is also mubah, which is neutral. There is no disagreement about it is prohibitedness. There is also mustahab, which means recommended. And the last one, which is wajib or fard, which means it's compulsory for us to do. So any actions, anything we do through our life, it has to come under one of these 5 categories, including the consumption of food. So if we start look at what actually allowed for Muslims, so dietary food will be mostly one of the 5 that we mentioned before. In some cases, there is no clear declaration. For example, eating dates, for example, this is considered to be sunnah. So promotion of consumption of date, for example, breaking the fast on date, it's sunnah. So it's something that is mustahab, or we would like to promote it. So among the religious law that is linked to food is the fasting. So the absence of fasting, absence of eating during Ramadan is directly linked to food, and consumption of dairy product is permissible. Some other earlier religions like Judaism and Christianity, so they have some restriction about the type of animals that can be used or the type of products that can be consumed from dairy product. Crude vegetables are all permissible unless it's fermented, where alcohol will be present. So that will directly will eliminate them from being permissible. Bread cereals are all permissible unless we have clear understanding that something that is harmful exists. So the key thing about pulses and grain and cereals is that when we are storing them under unsuitable conditions, they tended to have fungus, and this fungi is basically can generate toxins, aflatoxins. So the consumption of such ingredient or material is considered not to be permissible or halal anymore. Seafood and land animals are mostly permitted. All the seafood is permitted as per the hadith of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Land animals mostly they are permitted unless they are wild animals, have fangs, have animal of prey. So all these are restricted in different categories. Pork and alcohol are completely prohibited, and that is probably well known. Now, the halal and haram and in between, as I said before, it doesn't really apply to food only. It can be also related to anything that we consume, food, clothing, medicine. As Brother Mufti Shapir mentioned, finances is really important. Relationships between families and within the same family, interaction with society, work ethics, social communications, conduct and practice, all lie under the halal and haram and mustahab, for example. For example, the hadith for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, it's not a mu'min or it's not a true believer who his neighbor is sleeping hungry. So that actually it's part of social justice that has been advocated by Islam. All right, so in terms of haram products, there is very clear prohibition for certain products. For example, anything coming from pork, this is regarded or considered to be clear prohibition. Anything that is declared in Quran, anything that is clearly declared in Sunnah or Hadith, anything that is general agreement among the ulama. So this is ijma' or true confirmation by ulama, or anything that can be used as qiyas. Qiyas is like analogous to. So anything that we know that can change. For example, I will give you an example. So wine is haram. But if we ferment wine and we convert it into vinegar, this actually removes the prohibition because vinegar is halal. So based on that qiyas, maybe there is some product that can be haram and it is on entirety, but if we change it to another product, this harmoniya or this prohibition is eliminated. One of the things that keep me thinking for really a few years, we know that blood is haram, 100% haram. Everybody say it's haram. Jewish, Muslims, and certain sects in Christianity, they know that 100% blood is haram. However, from my research earlier, we found that actually you can take the blood, you fractionate it, you produce different types of proteins. You take these proteins, you digest it, you produce peptides that has no shape or chemical structure to the parent molecule. This peptide can be really, really important. It can help us to reduce our blood pressure. It can help us to fight cancer. So this type of conversion of something that was haram and suddenly start to become useful. And in some cases, it's become really, really important for life, which is really the basic for all religions, especially Islam. Protection of life is the prime one. So that's really important. All right, so the conversion of materials that can be, that was haram and become halal, still a very interesting area where the ulama is discussing. There is makruh or disliked, and this can be variable a little bit between various Islamic sects. For example, we know our brothers from different sects, they don't eat certain product from the sea. For example, shrimp or crabs, for example, or crayfish. All this might not be acceptable by some Islamic sects, but it's not prohibited by others. Mashbuh, doubtful or question. This is mostly related to products that can be used as additive for food, medicine, and I will have long list at the end that we need to keep an eye on when we go to the supermarket and check this type of product. All right, so for halal meat, we like halal meat first because we are ordered to consume only halal meat. So just following the order, that is really the ultimate worship, the ultimate goal from all Muslims, submission. So we actually submit to the will and the order of Allah to eat only halal. But from our research, we started to realize that halal meat is superior in terms of safety and nutrition compared with non-halal food or non-halal meat. So there's some advantage in following the consumption of halal meat. Okay. Yeah. So what we really want to do is basically we find that any other physical aspects or any food quality related to halal to meat, it cannot be accepted without this spiritual quality, which is being halal. So for us as Muslim, spiritual quality override any other quality attribute. So we came with that concept of spiritual quality, which is basically tell us that if the food is not halal or the meat is not halal, nothing else worth consideration. Okay, I will stop with that, and hopefully we can continue at some other stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Alaa. Right now, I'll open up the floor for some Q&A. So if you have any questions for Dr. Asghar, Dr. Alaa, and Sheikh Shabir, feel free to ask. Come around with the mic.
I continue. Could you show us that list that you are gonna show us?
Sure. So there is halal E code. So when we are adding additives to food, there is a database for all the additives that can be added. So it might be from plant origin or from animal origin, or it can be synthetic in nature or modified from a natural material. So this list is permissible and can be used during food processing. We created in Malaysia, so they created what is known as Halal E list. And this list is really I will give you some examples from them. Yeah, so in the end here, can you see the EU 124? So this is extract from insect. So we have only one insect that is considered halal in Islam. Do you know what it is? Yeah, they call it shrimp of the sky, locust. So locust is the only permissible insect to be consumed. So cochineal is basically an insect that we extract red. So all the lollies that you see in the supermarkets, they actually getting this red color from there, mostly. There is some other natural product that can give red color, like beetroot, for example, betaline from beetroot, but red color mostly in lollies coming from that insect. So that is not halal. So there is a big list, as I said, published by the Halal Committee of Malaysia, and it's called Halal E list. Okay.